going on, everybody? This is going to be the first video of my new YouTube channel, and a little bit of a backstory on why I wanted to create a YouTube channel. I'm recently disabled, so when I was interested in tying flies, there was nothing on YouTube that kind of showed me how to do my own thing. So that's what I figured I would do, is make videos so that if there was anybody else out there like me, then they could kind of get an idea of how to do stuff. So today I'm just going to tie a simple redfish fly. It's going to be the redfish Ritalin, and it's going to be on a size 1/0, a Mustad S71S NP-DT. And what makes tying flies for me different from others is the use of my hands. I don't have very much use in my hands, as you can see, so it makes tying flies a little more difficult, but it's fun still the same. The thread I'm using is Danville's 210 denier in black on a loon bobbin. I like the loon. It's a bit bigger. It's easier for me to hold. So to start, we'll lay a thread base all the way back behind the bend of the hook a little bit, and we will do our hot spot. And it doesn't have to be perfect. You won't see the thread base when we're done with the amount of stuff that's going onto this fly. And I'm sorry about the quality of the video. I am filming on my phone. This is all kind of a new setup, so hopefully eventually I will be able to upgrade. We're going to stop our thread just down the bend a little bit, and for a hot spot I'm going to use some cactus chenille, medium cactus chenille, and root beer. Go ahead and tie that in and do a couple wraps up towards the bend of the hook, up towards the shank of the hook. Get that locked in. And the most important part about trying to tie flies like this is just finding your own method. Nothing has to be perfect. The fish will not care if your fly is not perfect. I'm going to advance my thread back up so I can wrap this in. Another thing for me that makes doing these really easy is the rotary function on my vise. That way I don't have to try to fight the material and my hands trying to wrap the stuff in. I'm just going to do 3 to 4 wraps just until the hook starts straightening out. We're going to go ahead and tie this in. Trap it a couple wraps. We'll go ahead and clip off the excess. afraid to use what you have. You see, I have to use my mouth sometimes, and that's perfectly fine. You just have to find your own little method of doing stuff. Now with that locked in there good, we're going to take some pseudo hair and sand color. Get some stuff out of my way here. Take a decent amount, 3 or 4 decent clumps of pseudo hair. A good brush really helps with this part. Try to trim that close to the hide. And once we get that trimmed off, then we want to remove as much of the underfluff as we possibly can. Once you have that removed, then what I like to do is to hold it with the flat part of my hand and really brush it with a lice brush and try to knock out as much of that under fur as I possibly can. Need much. You can vary if you want a little thicker tail. You can do a bit thicker. Take it and just pull out some of these long fibers. Kind of give it a blunt end. We're going to tie that right on top of the shank. And like I I said, it doesn't have to be perfect. The fish are not going to care. Give that some good tight wraps. Really lock it down so it doesn't move. I like to take my brush and kind of brush out the tail, any knots that I might have in there, or any trapped fibers. Come in with your scissors, cut out this extra stuff in the back. Wrap over our butt ends here, make that look nice and neat. And at this point you can take a Sharpie and you can put bars in the pseudo hair if you'd like. I'm not going to on this pattern. You can also use craft fur and whatever other materials you have. Just be fun with it. Be creative. Gonna take a single. This is a single strand barred silly leg in sand. Or tan, I'm sorry. Gonna get that wrapped in right on top, going right down the pseudo hair. We'll trim these a little shorter than the pseudo hair itself. Makes it easy. Flip it upside down. Just trim those a little shorter. Next, take our chartreuse and orange fire tip silly legs. We're going to tie one on each side of the shank of the hook. Wait to trim those till we get both on. That way, try to keep it a little even. Those tied in. And like I said, the biggest thing is, especially for me, just finding my own little method, my own way that works for me. For trimming these, I like to have some of the fire tip showing. Just gonna take these and wrap up them a little more. There we go. I like to have a bit of the chartreuse and the fire tip hanging off. So next, we will take some UV polar chenille and UV copper, and this is the large. Has a bit longer fibers. I'll tie that in very close to where I tied the silly legs in. Just tie that right on top. Lock it down with some good tight thread wraps. Come in the back here and trim off this thread. There's the rope core. Up there, got it trapped around my tail and my legs. There we go. If you have a bit of a thread pump, don't worry about it. You're not going to see it once we palmer this in. I mean, I use the rotary function of my vise. I like to advance my thread a little bit and do a couple half hitches. Then grab this with my hackle pliers. I'll start palmering this in. I like to run my fingers up the rope, get all these fibers kind of sticking out one way. It's hard to do, but try to take your hands and pull the fibers back with each wrap, well, you don't trap too many of them. If you trap some, it's okay, so we can go back and pick them out. thread, go up and tie that in. Which is sometimes easier said than done. Usually try to get a couple wraps over it, then take my hackle pliers off and I can cut it and without it unraveling to where I can really lock it down. Try to sweep everything back. Put some nice tight thread wraps on that. That'll help push everything back and keep it pulled back towards the tail. I like to come in with my bodkin and try to pick out as many trapped fibers as I can. And like I said, it doesn't have to be perfect. Now the next material we're going to tie in is some Palmer chenille in orange. Same thing, just tie that right in close. Sometimes easier said than done. Come in and trim the butt section. Really lock that down, some thread wraps. Got some trapped fibers here. Once again, we'll advance up the shank of the hook and throw in a couple half hitches so we can use our rotary function. And same as before, take our hackle pliers and do four to five turns with this polar chenille, and this will also help push back that copper chenille. more, try to sweep back the fibers with each turn where you don't trip too many. Looks about good. I like to keep my hackle pliers on it just to help me hold some pressure on it. That way it doesn't come unraveled. Just a little extra control. Go ahead and snip this off and pluck out any fibers that got trapped while we were palmering that in. I like to wrap back on it just a little bit, just to help push some fibers rearward. And we'll go ahead and advance our thread up just behind the eye of the hook. Make a little thread bump for our lead eyes that are coming next. And once again, we'll take our bodkin and pick out any trapped fibers. Palmer chenille really helps push back that polar chenille. For my area, this is a pattern that I like to throw around rock jetties and oyster beds, around old piers, anywhere that there might be speckled trout or redfish hanging out. So next, we're going to take just a plain lead dumbbell eye in large. I'm using large because a lot of the areas I can get to fish right now from my wheelchair, it's deeper water, so I want it to get down rather quick. I also tie this pattern with bead chain eyes. You can do I'll use medium bead chain, large bead chain, small bead chain, just depends where I am planning on fishing. Now for putting on dumbbell eyes, for me, I have to use a pair of forceps. Try to grab it and hold it on to where I can get some thread wraps on it. It's not the easiest thing in the world, but it works. Sometimes. Just kind of have to move around on the pedestal of my vise to where I can get a bite on them, like that. Then I just try to hold them in place to where I want them and get some good thread wraps around it. Then can take the forceps off and try to put them into place to exactly where I want them. And you can start doing some X wraps, really get them locked in. Some figure eights. Try to keep them as straight as possible. I like to come underneath with the thread, really just lock that in. We're going to take our thread right back in front of our Palmer chenille. And for the lead eyes, you can do super glue. I'm unfortunately out of super glue right now, so I just use a little bit of UV resin. And with the UV resin, there's no wait period to let that super glue dry. Just put some right on top and zap it with the light. Doesn't take long to cure, a few seconds. And that'll ensure that the eyes aren't going anywhere. Now the last material we are going to tie into this is going to be a EP Sinyo's chromatic brush, and the color I'm using is Copper Candy. My water is usually pretty murky, so I like something that's pretty bright, flashy. Just try to lay it right on the top of the hook. Get some good thread wraps on it, really secure it. And we'll jump our thread right in front of our lead eyes and do a half hitch. And just like before, I like to try to take it and kind of stretch it out, make it easier to grab with my hackle pliers. I like to try to get it with my hackle pliers, then same with the polar chenille. Just take my fingers, try to anyway. Use your bodkin. You can use the back of your scissors. Just try to pull these fibers out. Try to break them back. Make it a little easier on yourself to palmer in. This brush isn't the best looking. It's kind of matted down. I'm going to take that, take the fibers and try to lay them both going Try to lay them all going one way, and we'll take touching wraps all the way up to the dumbbell eyes, trying to pull fibers back as you wrap to keep from trapping too many. And don't worry if it doesn't look right, because we're going to go through and pick out a lot of these fibers and brush them out. I just want to take it right behind the lead eyes. See if I can move my hackle pliers down a little bit. And if you want, you can do an X-wrap over the dumbbell eyes. It's not really necessary. Take our thread right behind. We're going to capture our brush. I always keep a pair of wire cutters on my desk. You don't want to use your good scissors unless you want to replace them. And you have to be careful because it's pretty easy to cut your thread here too. Some wraps on it, then take that wire core, try to bend it back, and get some more wraps over it. Help push it down. out the head of it, smooth all that out. Then at this point you can whip finish. If you wanted to, you could tie on a weed guard. Not too worried about it. A lot of the areas I fish, it's not too weedy. It's not necessary. I like to do a double whip finish, just to ensure that nothing slips while I'm trimming and picking the fibers out. That one kind of messed up. Pull it kind of tight. Pull it tight. Make sure your knot cinches in. You can go ahead and clip your bobbin free. Set that aside. Then you can take your bodkin and come back through and pick out all these fibers. Also come in with your, if you have a dubbing brush or a lice brush, help pick out the trapped fibers. Then the last step, take your UV resin, come through and secure the head. And the UV I'm using is the thin, so it'll soak into the threads real good. You won't have to worry about it running all over the place. Then you just come in and hit it with your light. that's it, guys. That's the redfish Ritalin. Now, these videos are going to be a little bit longer. I would prefer, but as you see, it is a process for me to tie. But if you like this if you like to watch this, then I will be uploading more videos, so subscribe, turn on the notification bell. If you have any questions, feel free to put it down in the comments. I will be reading those. But yeah, thanks for watching. Y'all have a great day.